Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the PDC educational webinar. Chris Shank could not be here today, so I'm going to introduce myself and the webinar. The topic for today's webinar is, are you still doing that manually? Let's get it automated. So hopefully we'll have some fun today talking about some tools and some ideas and some ways to go about automating your processes and just being able to add a little more productivity to your business pretty simply. So my name is Tom Drost, and I'm the co-founder and president of Logical Engine. They're the creators of Estimate Rocket. And the team at Logical Engine works closely with customers to help them create and implement solutions to their problems. Constantly strive to deliver high productivity and efficiency and the best levels of customer support. We really believe in customer support. So Estimate Rocket, as some of you may know, was released in 2014 to provide cloud-based professional estimating, project management, invoicing, and CRM to general and specialty service contractors, especially painters. It was designed for ease of use in the field or office to enable contractors to close and complete more deals in less time. So enough of Estimate Rocket, and on to our topic. A couple notes. Kayla is with me too, and she'll be looking at the questions as they come in, so feel free to type in your questions if you have them during the course of the presentation. And we'll certainly have some time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to jump right in. There we go. Let's get that automated. So, automation, as most of you know, everybody's who's probably listening has done some level of automation, hopefully at this point. And automation can be a real game changer, and it keeps getting better. So you're probably never as automated as you can be, and you're always going to be weighing the cost of automating against the benefit of automating. So we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. If it's not your thing, if computers and automation generally is not your thing, I guarantee you know someone that can help. One of the other employees or people in your business, possibly a colleague from a share group like the PDCA. There's always someone out there who's willing to help you with automation and getting involved in the process. So, there's no excuse for not automating because everybody can get involved in it. And really importantly, would you like to have an extra hour or two a day? Imagine that. And what if many of your employees got an extra hour or two a day billable? Really, really positive things and definitely achievable. What if you could hire another painter instead of another admin person? We all cross that bridge where it looks like we just can't get all the paperwork done, or we can't get all the administrative work done. We really think we need another admin. Well, maybe we don't. Maybe we can accomplish some of those things that an admin would do for us through automation. And again, that's part of part of our topic for today is to talk about those things. So automating your business is not a one and done. You're going to have to keep revisiting this process throughout the years. And you really got to just bring yourself to understand that change is part of the game and embrace it. It's really important. Automating is a process that evolves as your business evolves. The things you're going to automate after your fifth automation project are going to be way different than the first things you automated. And that's not a problem. You can start small and keep adding and adding. Even the smallest of automations can have a huge impact on your business and your profitability. And as you grow and as your business matures, the changes are going to be different. You're going to have different things. Sometimes it's going to be an accounting problem. Sometimes it's going to be a production problem or a scheduling problem. Sometimes it's going to be a human resources problem. And all of those things are going to change throughout the life cycle and course of your business. So definitely keep an open mind to the kinds of things that you may need to automate at different times. Understanding why and when to automate is really the key. And that's just asking yourself the question, can this process be made better or more efficient or easier to manage through automation, and is it cost effective? So why is now a great time to increase your automation? Well, there's a few things that have happened over the last, they've been happening pretty rapidly, but I would say over the last 3 to 4 years, the evolution of mobile devices is, we all know it. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everyone that works for you has a cell phone. And those cell phones are not stupid devices anymore. Those cell phones are capable of doing virtually everything that I'm doing on this 27-inch desktop computer that I have that costs thousands of dollars. So everybody's got a computer in their hand now, or virtually everyone. The other reason is there's hundreds, probably thousands of these new cloud-based services that you can buy into. They cost very little to buy into. Usually they have no upfront cost or long-term commitments. And there's a whole huge push on integration. Different services being able to talk to one another. And that's really where we'll probably spend a lot of our time today, is talking about the potential for different integrations and how you can integrate and what the alternatives and options are. Constant improvement, I'll keep coming back to that. You have to constantly be improving. If you're not, your competitors are. So this is one way that you can continually improve, be more productive, be more efficient, and either reduce your costs or increase your sales, one of the two. So like anything, we kind of want to have some goals that we're trying to accomplish. So as you're considering automation projects, you need to figure out, are they going to be worth it? Is this just something I want to do because it's an ego thing, or is this something that I want to do because it's really going to pay off for me and really going to help my business be more efficient or more productive? So I have a few goals here that I've listed out that are pretty good questions, easy questions to ask, or targets to work on. Productivity increase, anything that's going to help me get more done in less time or get a higher quality out in the same time. Great goal. Another great goal is leapfrogging the competition. If you can produce some sort of an automation, and even a power sander versus the old block sander can be an automation that will help you leapfrog your competition. So it doesn't necessarily just have to involve computers. There are all kinds of automation. We'll talk mostly about computer automation today, but automation is definitely not just subject to computers and accounting and paperwork type things. Safety, obviously a big goal. As you grow, your insurance costs are going to keep increasing because you're going to have more and more employees that you have to insure. And anything that can increase your safety and thus probably decrease your insurance premiums is a good target. Cost reduction, another good target. And that's usually what people go after first. And it's a very important one, but it's definitely not the only goal when you're considering your automation. Minimize errors. Obviously, that's a big one. If we can do things that are going to reduce the number of errors or the amount of the next one rework, that's huge. That's huge. It makes you look much, much better to your clients, much more professional, much more on the ball. And it also decreases your costs. If you're not having to go back and rework or do something multiple times, that's going to really improve your productivity and reduce your costs. And finally, stress reduction. That's a big goal of automation. Sometimes that's more related to mechanical type automations, but certainly computers as well. Not having to retype information 4 times in 4 different places is certainly going to reduce fatigue and keep up the quality not only of your information, but of how your people feel about what they're doing. So another big plus. So a couple questions about when to automate. Again, this goes along with the goals. There's some questions you can ask yourself to decide, is this a really good target? Is this something that I should be shooting for? So will it save a person? Hey, that's if you got one automation that'll save a whole person's salary, which will drop to your bottom line, that's a pretty good target. Doesn't mean you're going to get rid of someone, but that person, maybe if you save a person or a man year or man weeks or whatever, those man weeks are going to be able to be applied to other jobs at no additional cost to you, and you'll end up netting more in the end. Will it increase profit more than costs? That's sort of a benchmark to look at. Is this going to, if something costs a lot, that doesn't matter if it's going to increase your profit greater than it's going to increase your costs. It may be a shock up front when you look at something and say, well, this is going to cost me $100 a month or $500 a month or $1,000 a month. But if it's dropping $2,000 a month to your bottom line, then it may be worthwhile. So just something that the fact that something costs more doesn't mean that it's going to make you less profitable, but you do have to weigh those in your decisions. So definitely good question to ask. Another way to look at it is, will it reduce costs more than it costs me to implement? So is it something that's going to either streamline my process so that my people can get more work done in the same amount of time? Then it may, even though it has a cost, it may cost me less than I'm paying to have that service. Will it increase productivity more than cost? Again, these are all kind of related questions, but they're just different ways to look at costing to see what makes sense for us to do, what makes sense for us to make this decision. Will it make the world a better place for our children? And it sounds like it may sound like a corny question, but as I've been working with a variety of painters through the PDCA, I have noticed that people really care. I mean, many of the business owners that I've talked to really want to make the world better, and they want to employ people, and they want to give people good jobs, and they want people to be successful. So, that's always a good question. Now, generally speaking, that won't end up going to your bottom line. However, growing better employees and growing better team members that are going to have long successful careers with you in the long run will be profitable for you. Some of these questions that we're going to ask as we're considering automation are going to have different time frames for their payoff. Some things are a no-brainer. You do them, they pay you off in a month or 2 months. Some things may not pay off for a year or potentially even longer, or they may not have a huge payoff until potentially a longer period of time. You have to evaluate that. There are certain things that are worth investing in. A truck is a great example. If you bought the truck and said, "Oh my God, that truck cost me a lot of money," well, yes, it does. But consider walking to your clients every day, and all of a sudden you realize how few clients you could visit in a day, and all of a sudden the truck doesn't seem that expensive. It's kind of a silly analogy, but it works. Will it save more time than it costs? So again, what are the aspects of this thing that is it gonna make me that much more efficient and faster, that I'll do it in half the time my competition takes? I'll still be able to charge the same price, but my people will be able to get twice the work done. So will it prevent injury? Again, that's always an important thing. Things that reduce fatigue in the workplace definitely can help prevent injury. And injuries cost you money in a lot of ways. They cost you money and they cost you, heartache, because obviously we don't want our folks to get hurt. We want them to be productive, and they want them to, enjoy working and enjoy coming to work and not be laid up in the hospital. So obviously preventing injury is a big plus. And will it give me a competitive advantage? So there are definitely some automations that may give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Automated email campaigns, for example, are a great thing that may give you a definite competitive advantage over your competitors who are still trying to do follow-ups in a manual fashion. So, these are just some questions that you want to ask yourself when you're deciding, hey, that thing's not working right. I think I want to automate it. Or that thing might be more efficient if we automated it. Ask yourself some of these questions and make sure you've got more, like a survey. Make sure there's more yeses than nos. And finally, don't automate something just because it's going to be cool. I have worked on countless projects over my career that were done primarily because it seemed like a cool thing to do, but it really didn't have any impact on the business. Many of those projects end up getting dropped after spending a lot of money. So, the cool factor or the ego factor is definitely not a good reason to automate. Now, there may be some ego bonuses from certain automations, but, make sure that's not the only one out there, because those generally don't have much in terms of payback. So now we're going to get into some of the different kinds of things you can do. So one of my favorite things lately is a program or an application called Zapier. So what is Zapier? Zapier, I may have this a little out of order, but anyway. Zapier is a tool that allows you to glue different applications together. I call it app glue. So I have a few. This is the main screen from the Zapier website, and it's got a few automations in there. Oh, look, there's Estimate Rocket down in the lower corner. I like that. And Zapier it's a middleman, and its whole purpose in life is to allow one application to talk to another application. And as an application developer, you can make your app talk to Zapier. And as soon as you do, your app can potentially talk to thousands of other apps out there. So it's been a real marketplace success, and it has made it really easy to integrate your app to multiple applications. Integrations are a relatively complex thing. Zapier has removed a lot of that complexity. From our perspective at Estimate Rocket, we could go out and create integrations to each individual package that's out there, but that wouldn't be productive for us to do. By us creating an integration into Zapier, we immediately created integrations to thousands of apps. It's a no-brainer. So first of all, any app you're considering, if they don't have all the integrations that you want, or even if they do, if they don't have an integration to Zapier, that may become a limiter to you down the road. So it's just if they've already integrated a Zapier, that's a good indication that they're forward thinking and that they're looking to the future. And it makes it relatively easy to move from app to app if you need to. So Zapier is the app glue. And in the picture, and I have a list that I'll show you and that we'll get to a little bit later, of some of our favorite tools that we both use internally and recommend for people to use externally. The one shown here by default when you first get to the Zapier page is a couple that I'll speak about. Slack is a great tool for communications. There's Google Calendar, Google Drive, a bunch of really powerful tools there. So what can you do with Zapier? Here's some examples. So, this is definitely potential for productivity increase. So Zap examples, you can have your web form go to a client in your CRM. You can add a Google Calendar event based on an email or a booking from another app like YouCanBookMe or Calendly. You can add a new client that gets added to your CRM into your Google Contacts list. You can add a calendar appointment booking. We use a program called Calendly to book the demos and training appointments for our company. We're also using YouCanBookMe. Both of those are really, really great tools. And they all talk. All of these tools that I'll mention today talk to Zapier. Drip marketing list updates. Somebody gives you their email address on your website. You want it to update your MailChimp list or your CRM client database. Spreadsheet updates. You can actually create Zaps that will maintain and build, add rows to a spreadsheet in Google Sheets. And the opposite. You can have an entry in a Google Sheet that could go to your CRM system. So that opens up some virtually unlimited possibilities. You could send emails to a Slack channel. So Zapier allows, one of the things you can do with Zapier is you can actually have it respond to an email. So someone sends an email to Zapier, Zapier can analyze that email and then send it on to some other service. So we actually use that in a couple circumstances, and we'll talk a little more detail about Slack in a couple minutes as well. You could send a text or an email when a project is created. You can add a row to a spreadsheet when email is received. So think of anything that goes on during your day between one or more applications or one or more communications that you're involved with, and think about, hey, could I use a tool like Zapier to automatically have that information move from one place to another? Couple warnings. Zapier is not magic. Zapier, you can't make up information. The information has to be present in order for Zapier to do its magic. So you can't take an email address and necessarily turn that into a whole client record. But there's a lot you can do. Really, really powerful tool. One of my personal favorites. So just a few examples of some newer applications that I've found recently, and actually most of these I found through clients recommending them to me. MeisterTask is basically a drag and drop task management system. So you can build projects in MeisterTask, and then each project can have a series of steps where you can drag and drop the various tasks from column to column. So definitely a potentially cool task management or even potential project management tool. And there's another tool similar to that called Trello. MeisterTask is a little prettier than Trello, maybe not as powerful as Trello. Really depends. A lot of these new apps really boil down to what you like and what feels good when you're using it. Google Drive and Docs. This is the kitchen sink of software as a service. Google Drive and Docs, I've become a huge believer in probably over the last 2 years. We use it internally a lot. It's a great place to share documents. Using Google Drive, which I think is free up to like 5 gigabytes of storage or something along those lines. And even after it's not free, it's $5 per user per month for a lot of storage. So Google Drive and Google Docs are basically Microsoft Word and Excel. Do they do everything Microsoft Word and Excel do? No, but they do them from anywhere. Now, some of you may be using Office 365, which does have similar features. I urge you to just play with and test Google Drive and Google Docs, even just Google Docs. Google Sheets and Google Docs are even operable on a phone, which is pretty crazy for pulling up a spreadsheet on your phone, but it actually works. So, and the other thing that's very interesting about the whole the Google Apps umbrella is that they talk very well with applications like Zapier. So you can kind of use your imagination, in terms of what the possibilities might be there. One warning about automation and things like Google Drive and Google Docs, you do still have to think things through. You don't want to create a set of spaghetti links that make it really hard for you to manage and figure out exactly what's going on. So you have to put some thought to it before you implement it, or as you implement new things, you have to rethink what you were doing before and make sure that you don't create yourself a system that is really not stable or not maintainable. One of my personal favorites, and also potentially a nightmare. So we think we're accessible everywhere with our phones and texting. Well, Slack is sort of texting on steroids. If you have, a lot of team communication issues, Slack is a great tool. First of all, Slack gives you the ability to create channels. So you can have a channel for each project, for example, and then Slack also has private communications. So you can have private chats, much like a texting chat or an instant messenger chat with individuals, or you can send messages to the channel. And so any message to the channel is going to show up on anyone who is subscribed to that channel. So if you're using Slack for a project, for example, you would subscribe all the employees that are working on that project to that channel, and then they would see all the communications, the back and forth that go through the channel. Nice thing about Slack is it does very well with graphics as well. And of course, it works on phones, works on desktops, virtually any device. So, and it has a good searchable history. So Slack is a really, really powerful tool. It's also a good idea to turn Slack off every now and then, just like it is your phone, because it can get a little overused. But the other nice thing about Slack is it does create sort of a business channel that can help you to separate work from home time. And I do think that's important. So, if Slack is the tool that you're using for your business communications, then people know they can turn it off when they're not working and not worry about what's going across Slack. So there's still texting for emergencies, but Slack can become the business channel. And the nice thing is when you do tune back into Slack, it'll actually show you all of the channels that have messages on them that you haven't read yet. So really, really powerful. Another really powerful tool. Slack also plays very nicely with Zapier. So you can, and many other direct integrations to other applications. So Slack does play nicely with others as well. Again, very, very powerful tool. And it also does have permissions, which is another big thing about that's very powerful about Slack. So you do get the ability to sort of monitor and regulate who can see which channels, and you can, you can subscribe people to the channels you want them to be subscribed to, but they can't necessarily subscribe to all the channels. So you can have an office channel and you can have project channels, and people won't be able to see both of those if they're not authorized. And another one that I've come to like very recently is YouCanBookMe, another appointment setting tool. Calendly is another one. Appointments Plus is another one. There's quite a few of them out there. I found YouCanBookMe to be very straightforward, simple to get your form up and running, very easy to integrate it into your website. And the nice thing about YouCanBookMe is it does let you build a custom form. Once they've picked an appointment slot, you can build a custom form very simply to collect all of the information that you need for your CRM. So you pretty much can add as many fields to it as you want. So you can get their name, their address, phone number, email address, and a description of what they're interested in. So you start out with complete information. Makes it much more. That by itself makes your appointment setting much more productive because you've got good information before you even get out on the ground. Or you can call ahead of time if there's not enough information, if you haven't gotten all the information that you need. So another great tool. And I call these a few of my favorite things. It includes some of the ones we've already talked about and a few more. And I can, if anyone emails after this, I can send you a copy of the slideshow. And this is also being recorded and will be available on the PDCA website after it's completed. So you'll be able to get back at it. But I'm not going to go through them all. But ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, our bulk emailing programs, QuickBooks Online, OneNote, another one of my personal favorites, Basecamp. This is obviously just a small subsection. These are ones that I personally have some exposure to and think work really well, and that's why I included them here. And they cover pretty much the gamut of the things that I use on a daily basis in our business interactions. Okay, so now we get into the hard part. Defining our process. That's part of the automation process. Is not just, hey, let's go get a CRM, or hey, let's go get a timekeeping program, or it's what problem are we trying to solve? Is this a mechanical thing or a procedural thing? What is the scope of this particular thing that we're trying to define and automate? Is it affect the whole company, or is it just a very small specific piece? Those things roll into and help determine how complicated or how doable or how quickly doable a particular automation project might be. And what are the steps? It's one thing to know what a process is all about, in your head, what the steps are. But if it's more than a one or two step process, it really helps to outline those and get them down on paper. Once you've done that, you'll be very surprised at a couple things happen. Number one, you might find that the problem isn't as big as you thought it was, and it may have a solution that doesn't even require any additional cost. It just requires you to rethink how you're doing it and maybe reorder some steps or reassign who's doing those steps. And then even if that's not true, if it does bear automation and really is worthwhile to automate, now you've got your process laid out. So if you go to investigate the tools that you need to do the automation, you actually have a little guideline there for you to help you, put those steps into process. So I just have a couple, easy examples here. Preparing an estimate. What's the process? We schedule an appointment. We do a site visit. We verify whatever their quote request was. We measure and count. Each of the steps that we do from the time we schedule it the appointment for the estimate to the time we do our presentation. And this may be, a very inadequate list. There might be another 15 steps in this process. Again, but it's the process of the procedure of going through and laying out what those steps are in the process that help you get a better understanding for what that process is all about. Another one, taking a phone call from a lead. This may seem totally intuitive. On the other hand, when someone new comes into your organization, it may not be intuitive to them. So even having simple things like this listed out, it sets your expectations for what the people are supposed to do and what you're expecting them to do, and certainly is a really that by itself is a really valuable process. The next step, after you define the process and you've decided, okay, let's automate this thing. Let's do something to get our web leads to go right over to the. Just got a message there. 1 moment. Okay, I think we're still good here. So the next step after we've decided we're going to automate this thing and we've laid out what the steps are is implementing it. And implementing can be really simple sometimes, but if it's a big task, if you're completely replacing some whole piece of equipment or some whole process, it's really important to lay out a plan for implementing that automation. You need to commit to it. You need to plan it, figure out how you're going to work this thing into the process. You got to allocate the resources. You may have to give people some extra time to actually do the implementation of this thing. And then when you're done, you really need to evaluate the results. Was this thing worth it? Did it work well? Doesn't mean to not do it. It just means make sure you check it out when you're done and say, yeah, this was good. And it can help you the next time. If you go back and go back through the process that you've accomplished and the implementation, you can answer those questions of, hey, how could we do this better next time? Because really this whole process is about getting better and constant improvement. And constant improvement is actually much, much easier than improving every 5 years. Now, if you wait every 5 years, you're really you're not gonna want to change. Almost wrapped here and ready for questions. Finally, summary. Embrace change. Identify your pain points, time wasters, things that you really want to improve on, things that aggravate everybody when they come in every day that you think might be able to be handled and automated and made much more efficient. Enjoy change. You'll notice a theme here. Define the processes involved. We talked about that. Make sure you may not need to automate them, or they may be so ripe for automation, you won't realize why you didn't do it so much sooner. Welcome change. Change is good. Change is hard, but change is good. Evaluate and measure your automation initiatives. Each time you're done with an automation project, it's definitely worthwhile to sit down and say, hey, give it a few months or a few weeks or whatever the time period to know if it's been successful, and then be honest. Did this thing work? If it didn't work, why didn't it work? And if it did work, hey, let's remember that, because there are things that we did that made it work, and we can repeat that and do it again and have more success. Encourage change. Change can come from a lot of sources, and sometimes the people who are actually doing the things, the inefficient things and the things that are really painful for them to do, you want to encourage them to say, hey, is there a way we could make this better? Because when they do that, number one, they're empowered and they'll do 10 times better than they did last time. And number two, they'll be happy. And people are happy when they get to influence their world and make their world better. And by doing so, they're going to make your world better. And remember, there's no perfect solution. Focus on the productivity opportunities, not perfection. You're going to have a bunch of automation projects. Some of them are going to be awesome. Some of them are only going to get you halfway where you want it to go. And that's okay. The perfect solution, even for, billion-dollar companies, in many cases, is unattainable. And I've seen firsthand in billion-dollar companies them go after, decide that they wanted to do this huge project, and they were positive they're going to have massive success, and spend 3 years on the project and millions of dollars and have nothing at the end of the process. So there's no one perfect solution. Just get out there and implement, think it through. I'm not saying to, not think it through and not to try to find the best tools that are going to fit what you can, and have tools that do as much as they can, but the perfect one's not there. So do the best you can, and go with things that are contemporary, and that are changing and changing with the times. And finally, just do it. I mean, there's benefits to be had by even the smallest of automation projects. So that's really my discussion today on automation. I know it covered a variety of different topics and ideas. If anybody has any questions, I'm open to taking them. One final closing note is maybe just that, there's lots of people out there that can help with these things too. So there's all kinds of help available through your share groups like the PDCA, and everybody has somebody who knows something about automation. So there's definitely resources that you can reach out to. Certainly can always ask folks at Estimate Rocket questions, and we always do the best we can to help you and point you in the right direction. So with that said, it doesn't look like any questions. So we all got a short night tonight. I would like to thank everybody for attending, and this recording of this session will be posted as soon as Chris is able to get it posted. So thanks again, everybody, and I look forward to talking with you next time.